as you see him happy and gleeing, and explain why. We have ourselves a rock star, superstar of the Democratic Party, and we're looking forward to hearing his insight, what he's been doing. He's been leaving the last 3 years have led some huge movements and for the Democratic Party progressive wing, and we're really, really excited to have him for another episode of Imagine More. So we're gonna do our quick intros. Obviously, I'm Jesse, and I'm gonna quickly introduce Seth, and we're gonna go right into it and introduce our special, special, special guest star. So without further ado, Seth, hit it.
I'm Seth. If you guys don't know me already, yeah, I was Jess's campaign manager in the 2022 cycle. Also worked with him in 2020. We actually worked alongside Allen Ellison during his Senate campaign. We were doing our best to promote him. He promoted us. So very close ties with each other's campaigns. So it's pretty good to reunite. It's been a while since
Yeah.
we last talked. So I'm excited to see what's been going on in Allen Ellison's life in the last couple of years, I guess now, huh? It's been at least a year since the last campaign we were working on. So,
Absolutely.
All right.
you
So
can
with
go
that
ahead.
being said, Allison, yeah, let's hear it.
Well, I've been trying to stay busy as possible. The governor here in Florida, he has really done a number on a number of people. And so I've been trying to do my best to combat a lot of that and just stay vocal because I believe that whenever you have those who are working against the progress of all, then you have to have someone who is, making sure that those that are falling by the wayside have a voice. And so whenever I see him go after people, I have to make sure that I am, doing my thing and raising awareness on the issues, educating people. And so, a lot of this I do on TikTok. I make videos. A lot of times they go viral. People like the information, and I share it and try to really just educate people because I believe that an educated voter group is a better group that will usually vote for the best candidate. So it's very important for me to make sure that people are in the know, or as we say, that people are woke.
That's awesome. So what are some of the things that you've been doing, like some kind of groups you've been working with in terms of, I know you said TikTok, which is a great platform to spread
Yeah.
your message, but any local groups in the Democratic Party
I
you've been
actually
working with?
started a PAC. It's called United for America PAC. And basically, what the PAC is doing is raising awareness on the issues that I championed whenever I ran for the United States Senate, like issues like for this reason here. In this country, we have women that are still being paid less than men for the same job, but no one in Congress is fighting for that. So that's an issue
Mm,
that we continue to fight for at the United for America PAC. We're still fighting for um, people with disabilities to be able to get access to uh, those disability payments so that they can take care of their families. Because whenever a person becomes disabled, it can happen uh, just by a simple car accident. No one wants to be disabled, but it can happen to literally anyone. And I've always told people that it is a sleeping giant in the room, whereby it literally impacts more Americans directly than pretty much any other issue. But you have so many people who look over that. And the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of people that have been deemed disabled by medical physicians are still without disability benefits. So imagine being disabled, not being able to work, and then your bills are constantly coming due each and every month. It has placed a lot of strain on people, financial burden, stress, which compounds the problem. And we still don't have people in the United States Congress that are fighting for these issues. When it comes to veteran suicide, people that are dying by suicide at the rate of 22 a day still, after all of the talk, after all of the political action, we still have zero action in Congress. And so, whenever you have these issues that exist in our society and no one in leadership is doing anything about it, it becomes our responsibility to continue raising enough awareness with the people, because ultimately members of Congress are moved by the weight of the people. So if we get everybody on board with what we're talking about and mobilizing them to call their congressman or their senator, then we could probably get some things done. But outside of that, I've just been working on building my universal basic income program that is um, partnered up with a wealth management fund, actually several of them, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to move the greatest transfer of wealth from the private sector into the public, bypassing the government, because you just have too many people that just don't believe they can get it done, and so sometimes you just have to move without members of Congress. And so that's what I've been up to, working hard on building my foundation, building my PAC, building my businesses so that I can make impact in the United States and abroad.
Awesome. That's interesting you said abroad, because Seth's going to probably dive a little more deeper into this. But for me, Seth told me something very interesting about you, and I didn't know about you personally. And we've had conversations on the phone, and like Seth alluded to earlier, we've worked hand in hand on a lot of different issues when we were both campaigning. But I never knew this about you, which was surprisingly. And Seth essentially said it to me. He was like, "Did you know Allen Ellison is an African prince?" And I was, I was like, "No, I've never heard that." And so, Seth, you let me know, Seth. Introduce Allen Ellison.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that much either. I found out a couple months ago. Yeah, he's you're the crown prince of, is it the kingdom of Nok, right?
Yes.
And that's in
Yes.
Nigeria.
Yeah. So Nok Kingdom is the oldest kingdom in West Africa. It's over 5,000 years old. The king there, King, he actually has been on the throne for over 50 years. King Jonathan Gayet Mayad. He actually, by royal decree, crowned me in 2019. And
Hmm.
so, during the campaign, some people kind of found out and they were starting to make problems or whatever, asking the question of, where does my loyalties lie? Does it lie in Africa or does it lie in America? And I, my thing is, I'm an American citizen. I was born here in Florida, raised in Florida. Um, and I am a true patriot in every sense of the word. But in 2019, I happened to be in Africa on an assignment to speak about agriculture, to talk about hydroponics, aquaponics, um, to reduce food insecurity, and to basically show the people in Nok on how to utilize micronutrients to grow various types of food crops. And whenever I had to go before the king in the palace, it was something like you would see on the Game of Thrones or something like that, where there's literally a king sitting on a throne in a palace, and I'm presenting in front of him and his ministers. And I had to bow down to him before I gave my presentation. And it's something that I had never done before. But yet I was honored to do it, because I was literally bowing down to a king that looked like me, a king that looked like my grandfather. And so while I was down there bowing, I began to feel this humble feeling come over me. And when I arose to speak to him, I just told him, I said, I am so honored to be here standing before you. I said, I'm honored to be standing before you, because where I'm from in America, we would never see anything like this. We would never see a king that looks like us. And I said, in America for over 400 years, our people have been beaten, have been oppressed, so much so that it has broken us, because we've literally been cut off from our language, because the average one of them can speak up to 9 languages. We've been cut off from our history, our culture, our lineage. And it was very powerful because they can track their lineage back 5,000 years, whereas here in America, most Black Americans can't trace their lineage back past slavery. So it was very powerful for me to be there. And then I told him, I said, um, not only has all of these things broken us as a people, but the evidence of our brokenness is the fact that we have emerged as the world's largest spenders. Uh, our spending power is the equivalent to the world's third largest economy, but when it comes to saving and investing, we're at the very bottom of the social economic totem pole. In fact, we're $15,000 below every other group. And so I told him that I wanted to be able to change this. I said, I will run for the United States Senate because I want for every young Black boy and girl to know that if a young Black man who grew up in a 3-bedroom trailer on the side of a dirt road can ascend to one of the highest offices in the land, then it is possible that any one of us could do that. And I said, I won't stop there. I will push further. And once I secure that further seat, I will leverage the power of that seat to rebuild the bridge that has been broken between our people and our countries and create the kind of economic development that can truly lift us up so that we're not spending out of despair, that we're spending out of equity. And I think when I said that, the king beckoned for the prime minister and he whispered something into his ear. And I began to think that, well, maybe I'm talking too much. So I said, I know that I have a presentation to give on the topic of agriculture with respect to hydroponics and aquaponics. And so I went into my presentation, talked about various ways to grow the crops and solve a lot of the problems in the area. But when I got done, the prime minister walked over and got the microphone from me, and he just said, "Wow, Allen, you have given us so much." And he said, K Pope Ham, which translates into paramount ruler or king, is very impressed with you. And what he wants to do is bestow upon you 2 official royal titles. And one is son of the soil, which means prince. And the other one is commander, which is a military title, which gives me command over everyone in the military, paramilitary, and law enforcement that's my age and younger. And when they had said that, I felt like, oh, this can't be real. This isn't happening. So the next day, whenever I got up, it was morning time. One of the congressmen from over there came to my hotel room. This guy was, very arrogant. But on this particular day, he came and he had this garment, and he asked me. He was bowing down. He asked me if I would wear this garment, and I'm thinking he has a different, vibe today. And I said,
Mhm.
sure, I would love to wear this. And I put it on. And when I came out of the room, I noticed that there were a lot of military personnel outside in the common area. And I was thinking, oh, they must have stayed at the hotel the night before. And as I began to walk out, they began to walk towards me. And I'm thinking, oh, what's going on here? And I just kind of squared off because I'm getting ready for whatever. And then just like all of a sudden, they just began to bow down to me, and then they asked me if they could take selfies. Now, back in the States, I'm used to taking selfies with people, but this lasted for like 30 minutes. I'm just taking selfies with all the military personnel. And then the congressman over there, he said, we're going to enjoy the festivities today. So I'm thinking, we're going to go to a festival. 'Cause I used to hold festivals like every second Sunday in Bartow, Florida. So when we get into the vehicle, I noticed that all the military personnel, they get into the vehicles and they ride with us like in a convoy back into the village that I was in the day before. And I noticed when I got there that there was tremendously a lot more people, like 100,000 more people,
Oh, wow.
because news travels very quickly in Africa. But when I
Mm.
got there, I noticed that the school kids were out in their school uniforms, all the different classifications of like levels of school kids, different types of uniforms. There was music playing, acoustic instruments, there was singing, dancing. And when the vehicle finally came to a stop in the middle of the like the town square. One of the military guys got out of the vehicle and came to my side of the vehicle. He opened my door, and as soon as my foot hit the ground, all the ladies started screaming, just like that. It was loud. I looked around like, whoa, what's going on? And then just like that, everybody started like trying to collapse on me to touch me. And the military surrounded me. They wouldn't let anyone touch me. And there was this little old lady. She probably in her 80s. She had like scooped under one of the military's like officer's arm, and she was almost able to touch me. And out of nowhere, a guy took an AK-47 and hit her in the chest and knocked her to the ground. And I'm thinking, whoa, what's going on? Like, why are you doing that? And as soon as I said that, another guy tried to touch me, and they beat him back. And then the crowd went crazy. Now everybody's trying to touch me, and they're just having to, fight the people off. And so one of the military personnel behind me said, "We must go." And they began to push through the crowd to get back to the palace. When we got there, everybody was kind of chilled in that area, and everybody wasn't trying to touch me. And so what I realized is that, I thought that I was going to a festival, but what I was walking into was a coronation ceremony, which lasted about 3 days. And so, it was a very powerful experience. In the daytime, it was like dancing, eating, just the festivities. But at night is whenever I would meet with the ministers, and the ministers of tourism, the minister of archives, like the various ministers that are responsible for different things. They would meet with me, and they would teach me about the history, the culture, and everything. And I learned some very, very powerful things about Nok Kingdom. One of those things is that in the book of Genesis, it speaks about this tree called the tree of life. The tree of life is located in Nok Kingdom on Nok Hills. And that tree is the only tree like it in the world. It doesn't grow anywhere else in the world. It's been there since the beginning of time. It has healing capabilities. So whenever, how in America we have like red tide and blue-green algae and all these types of things. When that happens in that region, they can take the bark of that tree and they put it in the water, and in 24 hours, whatever is wrong with that water, it will clear up. Monkeys won't climb on that tree. Insects won't crawl on that tree. Birds won't land on that tree. And at night, it glows. It has like its own light energy. It has its own ecosystem. The leaves, they never fall off. When the trees around it go through the seasonal changes, this tree never changes. Water comes out of the leaves. It falls to the ground. The roots suck it back up. And like I said, it has its own ecosystem. It's a very enchanting tree, and they protect that tree. Anyone can't go up to that tree. It sits on a flint rock mountain. So if you were trying to climb that tree, those flint rocks, they cut pretty sharp. Every time they break, they're very sharp. But also another significant thing about Nok Kingdom is that Nok Kingdom was the first culture or civilization in the world to discover iron. They also discovered iron smelting technology, moving the global society from the Stone Age into the Iron Age. So Nok is known for its iron work. And that is historically significant because without the discovery of iron, we wouldn't even have a modernized society, because it literally takes iron to make engines. It takes iron to make planes, buses, trains, railroads, railways, skyscraper buildings. And without that, we wouldn't even have Iron Man. So
that's a good one.
So yeah, I do a lot of work over in Africa. I have my 501c3. I work with another 501c3 where we take care of about 100 widows over there. We feed about 150,000 people for free. And a lot of this stuff I didn't talk about during the campaign because, it's in a whole other continent. But all of this was going on during the campaign. So whenever people would say, "Oh, well, He doesn't have the experience, and I'm just sitting back, not even trying to argue my experience, because I know my work like my humanitarian work, my diplomatic work, um, policy work, like all of that stuff is like it's no comparison to the people that I'm running against. But I can't bring all of that into the equation. So, a lot of times I would just make the argument that in the United States, the experience argument came up 234 years ago with the framers of the Constitution. And what they said was it's really not about experience. What it really is about is a person having the heart and character and fitness to be able to look out for people other than self. That is the constituents. And so oftentimes I would say, Marco Rubio's been in there for 12 years, and all of that experience, what has that done for you? And people would think about it. It's like, well, you're right. And then I would make arguments like in the last two incoming classes of Congress, 60% of those members had zero political or legal or legislative experience coming in, because we have a very diverse society, and Congress should be made up of a diverse body of elected individuals to represent a very diverse society.
No, I agree with you, man. And it seems like the African experience, it was a very impactful experience that kind of helped you make your decision on, using our expertise to bring here in the United States, and to create a framework so that we can follow, so we can connect more with our motherland as an African American, or just in general as our history as people, because everyone know Africa is, the start of civilization in itself. And so that's very inspiring, man. And one of the things that, Seth can agree with me on this one, is you are a very inspirational candidate. And a lot of people, they see your empathy, they see your transparency, and they connect with that. And so, we just want you to know that all your programs and everything that you've been doing we want to hear all of them, and we're glad that you mentioned some of them. And I know you couldn't talk about it in the campaign because it was, there's a little more to that than just, screaming out your resume, but
Mhm.
we still want to hear it, because, your platform, presenting things like, because I can only speak to me personally, me being as a Haitian, my parents were Haitian immigrants, stuff like, yeah, right, stuff like that. It's very inspiring, because if anyone knows Haitian culture, a lot of Haitians come from West Africa during the slave trade, and so a lot of it, we're still connected in that respect. So it's definitely inspiring to hear your stories, and that's great to hear that you were still actively engaging and making a solution, and not only Africa but here in the States. And I know your progressive message with UBI is something you're carrying strong here, and that's something that me and Seth, we still try to champion a public policy uh, initiative for us to get that done. But it seems like you're taking this on your hands, your own 2 feet in your hand. You're like, I'm not gonna wait for the government to do it. I'm doing it now. So tell us more about your UBI program.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know of uh, President Ferdinand Marcos.
Nope.
It's familiar.
Yeah, so he was the president of the Philippines. Um,
Yes, yes.
some people say when he was living, he was the richest man in the world. But you know, his wife was over a a couple of very, very powerful organizations, trusts, funds, and an energy company. And she basically appointed an individual to head that up, an international banker. That international banker is someone who has garnered a great deal of support from leading family offices around the world. And basically, all of those entities are on the same page about helping humanity, helping to save humanity. And saving humanity simply means making sure that no one is hungry and no one is homeless. That was one of President Ferdinand Marcos's dying wishes. That is something that the organizations that have come together, that I am now a part of as a international custodian of a international bank that houses all of these entities. It's a private, private bank with many leading families. And when I say leading families, I'm talking about leading royal families that have um, a significant amount of natural resources that are used to generate revenue for the purpose of creating a universal basic income globally. And I am someone who is engaged in the banking arena. I have two financial institutions in the process of gaining several more, and I am an envoy for the United Nations World Fund program. So I'm putting together these financial systems to be able to finance privately to start at least 1.5 million people to have a universal basic income in the United States alone. Um, that will be about $1,000 a month for the rest of their lives. And what I want to do is that there are certain criteria that I'm going to put into place, and it's simple. You can't have committed a hate crime and be a part of the UBI system. If you are a part of a hate group, you can't be a part of the UBI system. If you make more than $250,000 a year, then you don't qualify to be a part of this UBI system. This is designed to do several things. It's designed to help those who are in need of help, but it's also designed to improve social cohesion. Because if you look at where we are in our society with Trump having been president and um, DeSantis, our governor, who's running for president, under the leadership of just these two alone, we have seen so much division in our country grow. And we have to have a way to roll that back. And just talking about it is not enough. I believe that if we utilize our UBI program in such a way to force people to choose on whether they want to be a part of the hate or whether they want to actually get the help, I believe a lot of people will say, you know what, forget being in the KKK. I'm trying to get this $1,000 a month because I am in need. I think it will put a lot of people in the same boat, and then we can leverage those programs to actually educate people about how much we really have in common. And if you remember during the campaign, I talked a lot about that we really have more in common than not, especially when you start counting up all of the policies that exist. There are 55,000 laws that affect 55,000 issues that impact millions of people. But what people usually like to talk about are the hot button issues. The hot button issues are usually issues that tear people apart, like abortions or gay rights, and all of these things that are very divisive within our society. People, they go to their corners of the room and they just hang on there because of how politics have divided us so much. But when you start talking about like even 30 issues, you'll start to realize that everybody are pretty much on the same page. Like, for example, I don't know of anybody who wants to get rid of Social Security, you know, and disabilities is one of those issues where it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. If you become disabled, you need that payment to come in every month because you are dependent upon it. And so when it comes to like the issues that everyone can get around, that begins to show Americans that if you communicate enough about enough issues, you will very soon find out that we're really all in this boat together. And I think UBI probably better than anything else, can show people that you're more alike, because everybody wants a better quality of living. Everybody wants for their kids to be strong and healthy. Everybody wants for their kids to be taught well in school. Like, these are just things that if we push the hot button issues to the side for a minute, we can begin to see one another. Because right now we don't really see one another. The first thing a person want to know is, who are you voting for president? As if that is a barometer for everything in life. And we have to get beyond, partisan politics. And I think if our leaders were thinking like that and stop utilizing politics to raise money for their campaigns, and stop utilizing the divisiveness of our country to win elections and all of these type of things, and realize that that is actually doing more harm than good, then we would be better off. But because I don't have faith in those leaders that they're going to actually do that, then I'm thinking about, well, what can I do in the private sector that can make even more impact without having to go through the bureaucracy, without having to deal with the headache and the divisiveness that we see in our Congress. And what I realize is that if you care enough, and if you are studious enough, and you have enough energy, you can make a lot of things happen. I mean, think about our campaign, for example. I wanted to prove to people that even as a candidate, we can make impact. And so rather than begging people for their money for the campaign, what did I do? I held 80 town halls, and I would constantly ask people, what keeps you up at night? What's troubling you? And the reason I asked that was because I wanted to see if there was a way for us to solve their problems. I wanted to see that with our 13,000 volunteers, that someone in our database may have had a resource that can solve their problems. And I wanted our team to be able to solve their problems within 24 hours. And in a year and a half's time, what we were able to do, we were able to put roofs on homes. We were able to put hot water heaters in homes. We stopped evictions. We paid for drug treatment programs. We got tents for the homeless people. We helped people set up businesses. And it wasn't just here in Florida. We did this all over the country. And so what I was basically trying to prove is that when you are in Congress and you have a staff of 18 members and you're getting paid $175,000 a year, and you have the federal government behind you, what's your excuse whenever people call looking for help and they get a no phone call returned back? If you send an email, it's going to be a canned email, not really even addressing their issue. Like, what is that? If a candidate can do things to help change the lives of people for the better, then how come they can't? And my thing is, if they're not, then people should be smart enough, wise enough to realize that they can collectively vote those kind of candidates out. So the reason I would always like echo Jesse's posts on Twitter and wherever else is because I know Jesse was out here doing the same thing, helping people every day. I know that any candidate that I promoted was the type of candidate that was proving their worth to be in Congress, but they were doing it every day. Some people run for Congress because they want the fame. Some people run for Congress because they want the perks that come along with it. But some people out here are actually doing the work of a congressman. I know Jesse was doing the work of a congressman. I know several other candidates were doing the work. But oftentimes the people that are really doing the work don't always have the financial wherewithal to put their name out there. So this is why I've turned back to business. I've turned to the financial arena, because if I decide to do this again, I don't plan on doing this and begging for money. I plan on having enough of it where I can finance not only my campaign, but any campaign that I see that is worthy of helping. And I think that's a better way to be, because at the end of the day, money really shouldn't be in politics, but the people who usually win are the ones that have the most money, but they're also usually the ones that are not going to do anything for anybody else. They want you to spend all of this time on the phones, calling, begging, begging, begging. And then the party, I've been the Democratic nominee twice. I never had any help from the party. We were reaching 10 million people every month, and I didn't spend a single dime on advertising. And so it was based on, one, listening to the people. It was based on motivating the people, inspiring the people, and educating the people on how to amplify our message. The other thing is that we have to just always make sure that every one of us can have a bigger voice if we are in the knowledge of how to amplify that. So I tell people, look, go out, start a blog, start a Medium account, start a daily cost account, because whatever you say to an individual, you can write that and publish it and reach even more people. And so that's what a lot of people on our team were doing. They were amplifying, they were becoming editors, they were becoming publishers. And so this is what we have to do now, because if you look around, our leaders are not that inspiring. And on the other side, they are so entertaining that people are falling for them simply because they're entertaining. And it's a sad situation because, we've been down that road before where people are so entertaining, but they don't have the best interests of the people in mind, but they get in office, like Donald Trump, for example. And if he hears this, he'll probably say something like, "Oh, Ellen, I resent this very much, folks. If you don't stop, I'm going to lock you up right along with the crooked Hillary." He'll probably say some dumb stuff like that, and it sounds funny to people. And then they're like, "Yeah, I've heard him." They're like, "He's really funny." And I'm like, that's not enough for you to vote for him. But people will go out and vote for him because he's entertaining. And then on our side, we're not that great when it comes to getting our message out. We're not that great when it comes to branding and marketing. In fact, the other side is better than us at it. They go out and brand us, and people are just believing. Like, they say, "Oh, they're a bunch of socialists," and people just believe it because there is no counter. That's branding and marketing, something I'm very good at. It's what I used to do before I got into politics. But it's a lot that I've noticed, a lot that I see going on, and I don't really see it changing very much. And we have to do something about it. So Seth, are you up next? Are you running next?
Yeah, I'm very interested in what you're saying. No, the thing that inspired me about both your candidacies is how you guys were not hyper fixated on, raising finances. All the people we were running against were on the phones 10 hours a day calling rich donors, while you guys were out talking to the real people, real constituents. Like Jesse, the first time he ran, we raised $20,000. He spent 10 of it just to get on the ballot, and he had more votes than he had dollars he spent on advertising. We spent 10,000 on advertising. He got almost 15,000 votes. Like that's where our politics should be. It should not be so hyper fixated on, reaching the donor class and appeasing their needs in order to just get elected. Because that's the problem with all of our politicians, especially in the House of Representatives. You get elected, and day one, you're focused on re-election. You got 2 years, so you got to start now. So they get right back on the phone to start calling rich donors. What can I do? What can I do to get your vote? What can I do to get your donation? And they're just not focused on the needs of the people. And I always found you very inspiring. You were always very responsive on Twitter. Like, anybody would ask you a question, anybody would say anything. You always respond, and you don't treat them like, "Oh, they only have 63 followers. I'm not going to respond to them. I only talk to big names on Twitter." No, you recognize every individual as a person, and you treated them as a person, and you were like, I don't know how you had the time to do it. It was very inspiring. That's why I immediately was like, this is our guy. I don't care if he doesn't do well in the primary. Like, this represents our values. Like, we're very supportive of him, So, and I mean, it caught attention early on by like people like Mark Hamill, which that kind of blew my mind. I don't know how that happened in the first place, because that was like, and then he tweeted like hashtag Jesse 2022, and I was like, is this reality? Like, I
Star
watched
Wars.
5 years old. How did that happen?
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
the thing is, we were very, like you said, very responsive. I I did that on purpose because I'm telling people that Marco Rubio, when I was running against him, even before that, he's not responsive. In fact, any of these people that are in office, you can hit them up on their social media with a legitimate question, concern, like critique, and they're not going to respond to you.
No, they don't
And
even have
that's sad.
access. Probably they just have their staff write everything, and you'll just tweet a Bible verse once every month. And it's just like you don't know
Yeah,
it.
it's
You know it doesn't
sad
mean anything to them.
because when you become so insulated like that, you really don't know what's on the hearts and the minds of the people. And the primary job when you're in Congress is to represent the interests of the
Mm-hmm.
people. How can you represent the interests of the people and if you don't know what the people are in need of? So I became responsive, one, to show what it should look like, and two, for me personally, it gave me so much insight into where people were. And because I was running statewide, I believe that I had the best possible um, like knowledge base about where people were from county to county. Um, for example, most politicians think that it's just a couple of issues that they should champion, and they put those issues up on their website, and then that's it. I always knew as a political scientist that not only are there thousands of issues, but within each county, there are several issues that are unique from every other county.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to one county talking about housing when the issue is water crisis, I mean, you're just going to be out of touch. And so I wanted the campaign to be organic from the standpoint that the issues that we focused on were the issues that people were dealing with the most.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why um, we dealt with the most issues, and it also meant spending the most time studying those issues, spending the most time, and not just studying the issues for the sake of studying it, but really studying the issues from the perspective of trying to figure out the solutions to the issue.
Yeah.
And so, our data team crunched numbers. Our data team looked at demographics, and we had a stat team. Like, we had a team of social workers, a team of lawyers, all dedicated to trying to fix problems now, not when I get in Congress, but what can we do right now? And so it just became very important to me. But the thing that I always want people to understand about me is that for me, this isn't about the seat. This is about me trying to fulfill my personal goal of helping people.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I believe I was put on this earth to do, was help people. And so connecting my gift, my spiritual gift of helping people to a career path, it just only allows me to maximize that gift. And for some people, their reasons could be different, but that was my why.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to do that, even not being in Congress and having so much impact, it's just something that I think about, each and every day. So whether in an office or out here in the real world, I'm still going to make the impact. It's just, it would have been nice to have the government pay for a lot of the things that I'm doing, but hey,
Yeah.
I don't mind generating the revenue and paying for it myself. Um, which is, one of the reasons why I'm over in Africa doing what I'm doing, because Africa produces 60% of the natural resources that the rest of the world uses, and I have the opportunity to be able to um, not only be crown prince, but probably by November I could be king in 3 countries with access to natural resources that will catapult me to be able to pay for a universal basic income in those countries as well as America if I choose. But that's where I am right now. There are things that I try to do in America to make impact for our party. Like, for example, just in the state of Florida alone, last election cycle, I was watching how the Republicans were increasing their voter numbers. And I stopped counting when it got to around 350,000 more voters than our voters. And so for the first time in 28 years, the Republicans now control the voting bloc. But then on the flip side of that, we have at least 3 million voters who can't vote because of
Yeah.
felony records. But nobody's really trying to, push that issue. So I figure if I generate the revenue that I know that I can, you know, I could just pay for all of those and get our voters back
Yeah.
and flip the state back blue. And so, when you look at the Republican strategy on uh, isolating, alienating, or just basically disenfranchising voters, the thing that they did here in Florida with our returning citizens are, the type of tactics that we see them trying to engage in across the country. Um, but the other thing is we have a very large demographic of voters who have apathy, who don't feel like their vote is going to matter anyways. And our leaders have a lot to do with that. We have a lot of wins on the Democratic Party, but we don't articulate those wins. The people don't even know who's bringing the benefit. Remember during the pandemic when we got the HEROES Act passed,
Inflation
the
reduction.
CARES Act, we got all of that stimulus money. Do you know a lot of Republicans who voted against it took credit for it, and the people actually believe that it was Donald Trump responsible for it? It's like, how do we as a party not let the people know that the reason they were able to get through those tough months was because of our policy, not because the president signed a check, you know? So we have a lot of work to do.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I just don't have that much faith in leadership that they are going to get this stuff done. So, I just have to do what I'm capable of doing so that I can do my part. I consider myself to be a leader. I've never been a follower. So if I can go out here and make these things happen, then I will. And I won't worry about, what leadership say, that I can and can't do. I'm just going to do what I know to do because I know that I've looked at this probably deeper than most people. I went to school for it. I study this. I stay up at night thinking about it when everyone else is asleep. And all I do is think about. And if anybody is
Well,
inspired to want to, do it with me, I'm definitely welcome and happy and hope that you come on board so that we can do this together.
well, Alan broke up for a second there, so we got kind of like your last part, but then before that
Yeah,
kind
it
of
was
cut
like
off.
10 seconds you cut out, but it's all
10
good.
seconds, yeah. But yeah, we are in summation. Essentially, is you're never gonna put down.
He just switched his camera.
So okay. Well, we're having a little technical difficulty,
Yeah,
but hey, it's natural. It's very natural. So that's one good thing about being a live show. It's very organic.
Yeah,
And
very
it being
authentic.
organic, it's very authentic. And it's a late night show, so you guys know, or the people who drink during our podcast, you know why. We have these these moments, but what I essentially want to talk about the summation of what Alan was saying. Essentially, he is right. We have to take the individual needs to take control of their country because the elected people right now are currently in place. They're bought. They're corporate puppets. That's all they
Mhm.
are. They're just telling you what they got paid to tell you, feeding you whatever you want to feed you. Candidates like Allen Ellison take the time, and I only speak this because I was a candidate like that too. You have to invest in your belief system. You have to invest into people,
Yeah.
and that's I think that he's really trying to say that instead of me knowing, instead of me funding a system and organization that's run by puppets, I'm going to take the initiative myself and get back to the people who believed in me and believe in his idea of what he sees for the state of Florida. And I hope, honestly,
Oh, and we
I
lost.
hope, yeah, okay, and I hope honestly that Alan continues to run and continue has to support from individuals like us to help because it's not he has the power to do it by himself. God's given him the ability to do that, but we all know that if we when we come together, it's a lot stronger voice and a lot stronger message, and we definitely want to help him achieve the dream that he set forth for that he believes for the state. Um, I know we have a lot of technical issues, so I'm kind of filling it in. Are we got Alan? All right, great.
We're all good.
All right, so we got like 9 more minutes left. So some current events. I was thinking, what if have you? I know you've been really work focused hard on your initiatives and your different organizations and your different outreach programs, but have you chimed in a little bit as to the current state of the Republican race of the Republican primary?
Or the state of Trump's indictments, like, is that gonna
Yeah,
follow through, or is it
the
gonna end up
four.
being Trump as the nominee, or there's a few states that are trying to take him off the ballot entirely? Like, what's your opinion on
Yeah,
that?
When he first ran, a lot of the things that he was doing, I felt like would have taken the average politician completely out of the running, right?
yeah,
Now, I mean, he just took off and ultimately won. I remember that guy when he was in that camper. He was like, "Oh yeah, when you're famous, you can just grab them." And the guy,
yeah. I remember that.
the
Billy
guy
Bush.
lost his job for just listening.
Yeah,
He's actually like
Became
one
the
of he's
president.
like a cousin of the Bush family. I don't know if you
Yeah,
guys knew that. Billy
and
Bush, the guy
now,
that was in that video with him.
now
yeah.
he's been indicted 4 times, been twice impeached, and he's still raising more money than all of the candidates.
Yeah,
So it doesn't look like it's going to take him out of the running. It looks like a repeat of what
yeah.
was going on the first time he ran. I mean, just think about any other candidate getting indicted. They would be out of the running.
It'd be
And he's
done.
still raising more money than all the other candidates.
Yeah, I honestly, this is going to be the most depressing election cycle I think we've had in a long time in America. You know, and it's like I'm trying to convince my families, my mother-in-laws. They all, they tend to be a little more Republicans than Cuban, but but they vote Democratic because of me.
Yeah.
So even they're like, uh, you know, I don't know, Biden, Trump. They're both very old. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are just not inspired this election cycle.
The other
So
thing
you're
is,
probably gonna,
you
yeah, go
know,
ahead.
when you think about all of the things that have happened, like with gas prices, um, with information coming out about the pandemic and all of
Hmm.
these different things, the Republicans are literally controlling the narrative for people.
It's true.
And you see more Democrats and more independents leaning towards the Republican Party. And it's sad that they can't better understand like how gas prices go up. Like the president doesn't control that, but
Yeah.
it's the narrative that's being pushed out. And I believe that President Biden has lost a lot of supporters simply because of the narrative that is being pushed out, and the Democrats are not combating that with anything that is real. Like there literally needs to be town halls going on all the time so that people can at least get the education that they didn't get in school.
Yeah.
Because for someone like myself and like Jesse, who went to school and learned this stuff in college, like, you can't just sell us anything. But for the average person who didn't pay that close attention in civics in ninth grade and didn't go to college for it, the only place they're going to get their information is from what they see on television. And it's sad to say that the most pervasive political news source that's on television is Fox, because it's free. You don't have to have cable to watch that. So it's literally reaching more people with those types of messages that lift the Republican Party up and put the Democratic Party down. And so that's why I also spend so much time educating people, because, again, when you understand what's really going on, people can't just say anything and you buy into it. Like, for example, whenever, I'm in my salon right now, but whenever I have customers who come in here and 'cause I live in a red area, and they come in here and they say, our president, he really looked out for us during the pandemic. We got those stimulus checks, and he passed the Heroes Act and all of these things. I'm like, you do know that every Republican voted against this
Yeah.
stuff, right? You do know that these are Democratic initiatives, right? But the fact of the matter is, they don't know. And if we don't tell our successes, if we don't educate our people, then the Republicans are definitely going to take the credit for it. And then people are going to be voting for someone who literally voted against their interests every single time. And it's sad. And, one of the things the party doesn't do is they don't really take a consensus of the room. So, for example, when I was running, and if you saw the level of excitement that was around our campaign, right? You saw the amount of people that were signed. Like, one day we had 8,000 volunteers sign up in one day.
Wow.
That is a level of excitement that you just don't see in congressional races. And to turn around and put millions of dollars into my opponent's campaign, not only it was a way to control the vote, but it was also disheartening, and it also didn't create, like, it didn't really build a bench, because what should have been happening is they should have been saying, you know what, if he doesn't make it this time around, this is someone that we need to get behind the next time, right? But if you think about it, those types of candidates, and we have them all around the country, those type of candidates that can stir up a lot of excitement, they have no backing from the party.
Yeah.
And so then they want to dust off these people that have been around for 30 and 40 years, right? They dust these people off. No one's that excited about it. And then they don't know why we're losing left and right the way that we're losing.
Yeah.
And it's because, I'll tell you the real reason, it's because of money. They want people that can raise a lot of money, because when you get in those offices, you continue to raise money for the party.
People like Val Demings, and how well did she really do in the Senate race against Marco Rubio? Does money really win elections?
No.
Democratic primary voters just think that they need to vote for the person that raises the most money, which is just a flawed technique. It's like, at the end of the day, you're gonna vote for either the Democrat or the Republican. So pick the better candidate, not the one that's gonna raise the most money. And that's why they lost the Senate. That's why Charlie Crist got blown out of the water by Ron DeSantis. They're not picking inspiring candidates. They're trying to beat Republicans at their own game. Republicans are good at raising money, so they try to outraise money. That's not how you win elections. Just Republicans are always going to beat you if it's about finance, because they have all their dark money, they have all their special interests. We need to play at our own game. We need to change the narrative. We need to change the way people run elections, instead of simply relying on corporate donors.
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead, Don.
No, go ahead, Jesse. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything more profound than you guys are saying. I was just going to. All I was going to say was, like, I second everything that you guys are saying. My thing when I ran was, it's just like, I mostly focus on helping people. I'm not gonna, like, I think Alan already said this, but I'll repeat it. I'm not going to sit and waste my time asking someone for $1 that needs $1.
Yeah.
That's not. I didn't get in to do that. And that's our met. The problem is Democrats, like you said, Seth, they are focusing on how Republicans win. A Democrat, and I told you guys this on the campaign, Seth, and you've heard me say this 1,000 times, is you cannot try to play the Republican game to win a Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Democrats, our voting bloc is focused on the connection. It's focused on emotional connection. That's our voting bloc. Our voting bloc is not, oh, who's going to be the richest, the person with the most resume, the biggest resume. That's a Republican way of winning.
Yeah.
The Democrats always win with emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can't connect with our voter bloc, you're never going to win in any kind of election. It's just not possible. So even if you can raise $100 million. If people don't like you, they don't feel you, they're not going to vote for you.
Yep.
They're like, oh, he's a good guy. Yeah, I like Joe. I'm gonna sit this one out though. And that's just how we vote as Democrats. So and like Allen was saying, it's just the party leaders are not concerned about that, because guess what? The party leaders have been there for 30 years. They're calling the same people. And I mind you, and this is why the Democrats have really been losing, in my opinion, is that those people are dying out.
Yeah.
Those people that can normally call, like, hey, give me $1,000 here, are gone. And the newer generation, if we looked at the polling and the data, it's shown they've been more and more moving into the Republican Party or Independent Party, because they haven't fed the pipeline, like Alan was saying. They're losing the pipeline because they're relying on the older generation to push the party through, and it's never going to happen. And they're not really focusing on the young vote.
Well, younger voters
vote
overwhelmingly for Democrats, and Democratic voters don't
generally,
utilize that.
Yeah, generally.
Yeah.
It's a very general statement, but if you look at the data, it shows most people who normally vote Democrat are voting Independent or going red. And that's been
both parties are kind of
leaving
the establishments. Like most Republicans nowadays would rather vote for Trump over, and like they would leave the Republican Party just to vote for Trump. They're not very tied to both parties. The two parties.
You know what it is?
Mm-hmm.
It's people are tired of career politicians. People want something different, and it's not only in this country, it's globally. I mean, that's how Macron got in office.
Yeah,
he was a banker. People were tired of career politicians. In Africa, people are tired of these career politicians. What they want is something new. Now, with Trump, they got something new, but they got something worse. But it's the sentiment that career politicians are going to look out for self, and they're not going to look out for the people. And the people have apathy in voting for politicians because of that reason. So that's why it is. That's why the party should really take a new look at where the people are. Because if they see a new face, take like John Ossoff or Reverend Warnock, these guys really got in because they're not career politicians. They connect, they look good, and they're not career politicians.
Yeah,
think
it's
about
a connection game.
People went in first time around. Trump, when he went in first time around. Macron, Canadian president, prime minister. Like these people, globally, people are tired of these politicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
it's always
go ahead.
That's it. No, I was just saying, it's always going to come down to connection in Democratic primary. The problem is, for people to understand, a primary race, you're really limited to people who are in the donor and elite class.
Yeah.
So that's another rub that a lot of people that were running in the primary can't even get out the shooting gates, because you have to spend so much time kissing up to the people that have been there for 20, 30 years. You have to tell them, like, hey, yes, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. By the time you get out of a primary, you've made so many promises to the elites that you don't even have opportunity to really talk about the things that really address the middle class issues. Because you're still focusing on the elite class. And people who have the courage to say, look, I'm not doing that. I'm going the middle class route. I'm not taking the time to speak to you about your $1 million yacht program or whatever kind of boating program you got,
Yeah.
they get offended by that, and they want to. Well, let me go to someone like, I'm not saying this about Demons, but it's just an example. Let me go to Val Demings because I know she knows someone that could take care of my interest, so I'm going to give her money in that respect. And it's like, yeah, but that's not the interest of the people. No one cares about your yacht. They care about eating at night. They care about their Walmart stores being stored full of ramen noodles at the very least, so they can buy something to eat at night. And that's what people care about. And right now, that's the problem with the Democratic Party. It's like you have an elite class still there, and let's just talk about it. A lot of the Democrats are still Dixie Democrats, and we're not going to go there for today. But let's just be honest. There's a lot of Dixie Democrats still in the Democratic Party, and a lot of them you have to appease a lot of them, and appeasing them requires you to forget about why you even got in there in the first place. And so I'm with Allen. I'm not going to run again until I got the money to be like, look, you know what? I'm just going to do it my way, and no one can tell me anything because I'm the one paying for it. And that's the way you got to go about it. If you're going to do it the way that Allen envisions, and I envision, it's the only way you can do it. But if you're trying to do it any other way, where you're trying to be your own man and speak your own voice, you can't do it the traditional Democratic way. It's just almost impossible.
In any party, I mean, you can't talk about change and be about change if you're going about it the same way as everybody else. If you're getting the same money, like for example, if you're getting that Blue Cross and Blue Shield money, then you're not going to be able to implement universal basic income because now you're beholden to them. If you're talking about prison reform and criminal justice reform, and you're taking money from the prison system, like all these people, like, yeah, it's great money. It helps your campaign coffers look great, but you're not going to be able to do anything about that. And that's the problem that people need to understand. And so when people are asking for grassroots donations and dollars and stuff, it's because you are literally trying to compete against someone who doesn't mind taking big pack money, and it's sad that people don't understand it. Like, well, I'm not going to support you because you took this particular money. And then the question is, well, what did you contribute? Did you contribute enough where I didn't have to take that? Remember, I think it was Cameron who asked Marco Rubio, if we're able to raise an equal amount of money that you're taking from the NRA, would you stop taking money from the NRA? And he bombed that question. He said, I will take money from anybody that supports my agenda. First of all, your agenda should be the people's agenda. That's number one. But the reason he bombed that question is because people who know realize that he literally put an organization over people.
Yeah.
And if the people begin to understand that whatever politician is supporting them, then they should support that politician, because most politicians are supporting the corporations by taking their money, and then they go out and they push policy that benefits the corporation, which oftentimes put the people at a disadvantage. So it's like, how do we get the people to understand that this is how the game is played? And I tell people all the time, if you really want to know if a politician is going to benefit the issues that you care about, look on the flip side of your issues and see if they're getting money from those organizations. If they're getting money from those organizations that are on the flip side of the issue, then they're probably not going to benefit you. So
they're not.
And you can go to fec.gov and get that information for free.
Yeah, super wealthy politicians and rich people have completely different material interests from the working class people. That's why whenever you see nothing passing in Congress, it's because those politicians have to promise to the rich people, hey, I'm not a Republican, so you should donate to me, but I'm not gonna push anything that's gonna cost you a dime more in taxes. So when people are dying on the streets because they can't afford health care, it's because politicians aren't brave enough or bold enough to push for policies that would raise taxes for the few people who fund their campaigns, who actually have the very few people who would actually be harmed by, not even harmed, but who would be affected by slight increases in taxes. If the people ultimately want a politician that's going to offer something to them, people are just sick of people who are just, I'm not a Republican, okay? People are campaigning on fear. I'm at least I'm not a Republican. I'm not going to offer you anything. But I'm not going to take away your life. I'm not going to take away your liberties. I'm just going to keep everything the same. So the systems have fundamentally not changed in the last 60 years. It's just been the same status quo. Nothing is changing either way. We got a filibuster where you need 60% to pass any sort of legislation in the Senate. Right now, we're a stagnant society, and it all comes down to who funds the campaigns. And if you guys can fund your own campaigns, like that separates you from the corporate Democrats who are running this country. And that's really, I think.
Well, we've gone over our mark, and I'm gonna let Alan have the last words. And when you say his last words, I want you to keep in mind all your organizations and any websites that they possibly our fans can go on to donate, because you are a private entity, but at the same time, it still takes people to make these changes. And so, with that being said, I'll let you have the final word.
Well, I just want to say thank you both for all of the hard work that you do whenever you do these shows and educate people, because it's tedious, but it's necessary. So thank you both for doing this work and having me on the show. I am still on Twitter. I'm just shadow banned. And for those of you that don't know what shadow banned is, it's anytime you have an audience of people, but the people can't see your tweets, your posts, because of whoever is running the show is keeping your tweets from being seen. That's called shadow banned. And I went from getting about 10 million impressions a month to I think I'll probably be doing very good if I get 6,000 impressions now, even with 130,000 followers. I've lost maybe 25,000 followers since the takeover. And so I spend a lot of time on TikTok because they don't have those types of restrictions. And of course, Republicans are always trying to snatch it down. But you can follow me on TikTok at Allen Ellison for Florida. I put a lot of good content out there, content that educates people, content that entertains people. But mostly I like to inspire people to think more, to be better. And if you want to, please visit our website at theellisonfoundation.org. Also, United for America PAC. We are trying to continue to raise the awareness on the issues that matter to you, the issues that matter to me. We are working diligently on making positive change, positive impact, and I am working very hard on bringing that universal basic income program to the United States. I recently became the international custodian of a bank in London. It's called the Bank of Maharlika, very powerful institution that it believes in building humanity, saving humanity. It's called the Bank of Humanity, whereby 30% of all of their revenue goes towards a universal basic income program. And I am basically the face of the one that's coming to the United States and Africa. So I'm very excited about that I am a part of an international community of leading family offices or royal families that believe in looking out for those who are less fortunate. So be sure to visit the bank's website, Bank of Maharlika. And so, again, thank you all for having me. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
We got to have you back on sometime soon for sure. It's probably one of my favorite episodes we've done so far. So we definitely got to find time to get you back on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
All
Alan.
right, guys. Don't forget. Thank you, Alan. And don't forget to imagine more, guys. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week, everybody. Have a good night.